flag is right here. Okay. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming out here this afternoon. I know it's a little earlier than we usually have our meetings. We usually have it 1 to 3 or 2 to 5 or 2 to 3, 2 to 4, something like that. Yeah, I'm getting to be an old young Republican. I'll be turning 40 in January. And the way Young Republican system works, it's 40 and below. And then they're going to wheel me to the old age home. But anyway, so I want to thank everyone for coming out here this afternoon. And we're going to start off with our guest speaker, Michael Long.
Good afternoon, everybody. Number one, thank you for, let me thank all of you for your involvement in the political process. It's really an important endeavor. All one has to do is look at our city and our state and what's going on in the nation, and you understand how important it is to be involved in the process. Let me start by, maybe some of you don't know some of my background. Let me start with some of my background and how I got started in the political process. I certainly can't call myself a young conservative, considering the fact that I started with Barry Goldwater back in 1964. Okay?
Wow.
That is the race that drew me into politics. The person who really locked me into the political process was Ronald Reagan, who gave the speech, Rendezvous with Destiny, for Ronald Reagan that year. And the rest is history. I initially was registered Republican, and in New York State that year, the Republican Party was not involved in the Goldwater campaign. I'll give you a little brief story. I went to a local Republican club in East New York, and said to them I want to volunteer for Barry Goldwater. And they sent me over to see the leader, and I went over to the leader of the club, and I said, he said, what can I do for you, kid? I said, I want to volunteer for Barry Goldwater. And he said, well, we're not working for Barry Goldwater. I said, well, he's the presidential candidate. He's War Rockefeller people. I said, well, Rockefeller lost at the convention. We know that, but we don't care. We're not working for Barry Goldwater. I said, okay, fine, thank you very much. And out the door I went. A couple of days later, I was fortunate enough to run into a couple of guys that were giving out Goldwater literature, and they were part of the Conservative Party, the Cypress Hills Conservative Club. So my wife and I went down and re-registered in the Conservative Party. I went to the club, paid my $5 dues. A year later, I became the chairman of the club. 2 years later, I became the district leader of the Conservative Party. And a couple of years after that, I became the county leader of Kings County. I served as the county chairman for 17 years. In that 17 years, I served as a chairman of the local school board, District 19, for 2 years. I served on the New York City Council from 1981 to 1983. I was the first registered conservative and the only registered conservative ever to sit on the New York City Council. I still hold that record, and I'm afraid I may hold that record forever, looking at the city of New York. I had 2 great years on the City Council, and it was amazing to me. I'll give you a little story. The first day, I filled a vacancy on the council. I was a councilman at large for Brooklyn. And my very first day on the council, we were going to vote on the budget. 3 weeks before I started to assemble my staff. We started to look at the city budget. We started to examine, what position we were going to take. And it was clearly that they were increasing spending, raising taxes, and I came to the conclusion with the people that I assembled for my staff that we were going to vote no on the budget. The day I got sworn in was the day that we were going to have the vote on the city budget, So I got sworn in at 12 o'clock, and during the course of the day, I was pulled into various rooms by other council members, speaking to me and saying to me, listen, you're gonna vote with us on the budget here tonight, you're gonna vote affirmative for it. Well, I haven't made up my mind, and I really hadn't made up my mind already. And as the day went on, the pressure got more increased, and they kept pounding away. You know, this is a team, we work together here, there's 35 of us, and we all vote, we try to vote the same way and work together. Well, 8:30 that night, came time to vote, and I got up on my 2 feet, and my knees were knocking, and I made a very short speech explaining that I didn't think the budget was heading in the right direction. At that time, the budget was $11.4 million, and $11.4 million, and I thought that it was spending too much, and therefore I was voicing my vote no on the city budget. Up to before I voted on the budget, all the council members that were lobbying me told me, look, could take credit for everything that was going on in Brooklyn. All the new schools, the parks, the roads. You could take credit for all of that. I said I didn't need to take credit for all of that because I thought they could have done all those things in a different way. Well, the lesson I learned, and the moral of the story is, and probably gave me the direction for the rest of my life in politics. After that vote, for 3 weeks, the vote was 34-1. I was the one person who voted against the budget, but for 3 weeks, not one council member would speak to me. I would come down the hall in City Hall, and they would look the other way. Now I want to tell you, nobody likes to be unliked. Nobody. I can remember going home to my wife saying, nobody's talking to me. I don't know what to do here. After a week of no one talking to me, I realized that ultimately I did the right thing. Yeah. I wasn't there to be popular with them. I was there to try to do the things that I believed in, to do the things that many people throughout the county of Kings and the city of New York were talking about, that taxes were too high and government spent too much and there was no checks and balances. So I became very, I guess you could say, comfortable in my skin. And as the time went on, ultimately started talking to me. And when we had our sessions, or council sessions, or committee meetings, before each meeting, council members used to come to me and ask me, hey kid, what are you going to vote no on today? I had made up my mind. I had made up my mind that, I could have voted as a conservative, probably voted no on everything that came before us in the city council. But I also didn't want to be known as, a crackpot. I wanted to try to be serious about government. So I would pick out 1 or 2 or 3 of the most egregious things that was before us in the city council. And I would choose those items to speak out against and vote on. As time went on, over the 2 years, I wound up having a caucus of about 12 council members that used to come to me before each meeting to see what I was voting against or for and why. And I would explain to them why. The sad part is most of them would say, does it really say that in the bill? Which means they really didn't look at what they were voting for. It's like Nancy Pelosi, you'll find out what the bill's about after we pass it. But that, you laugh, and it is funny, but it's kind of sad.
Absolutely.
Because that's how government operates. there are very few elected officials that really focus and study and look at what it means. We have a lot of good men, we have a lot of good governors and senators, but then we have a lot of people that just go along for what's in it for them. And that's why our nation and our city are in trouble. I had the honor, I'm from there, I had the honor of being the presidential elector for Barry Goldwater, both in 1980 and 1984. I got to know and meet, at that time, back in '75, I met him for the first time, Governor Reagan, and he went on to become president. Certainly was my idol, my hero, that I tried to follow. And I found what is important, and which gave me the lesson I had in the city council, the meeting Ronald Reagan and being a presidential elector, establishing the voting record that I did in the city council. I used that as I guess you could say, as the moral compass when I became state chairman of the party. I became state chairman of the New York State Conservative Party in 1988, where I have presided over the party for 26 years now. I guess term limits, while I believe in term limits, so I guess not for myself. So I've been elected every 2 years since 1988. I think we've had a great history. The party has had a great history. We helped elect, we provided the margin of victory for George Pataki for governor. We provided the margin of victory for Dennis Vacco. We provided the margin of victory for Ned Reagan. He was the first statewide candidate, that won with the balance of the votes on the Conservative Party line. Certainly, we provided a margin of victory a number of times for Senator D'Amato, and many congressmen and senators and assemblymen throughout the state of New York. So we've had a great run, and we've had some years that are very tough. You know the feeling as Republicans living in the city of New York. It's very tough. It's like being a salmon, swimming upstream all the time. But it's an endeavor that is worth fighting for. It's a voice. Your voices are important. Your letters to the editor are important. Your phone calls to the radio shows are important. All the things that you can do. I don't know if you go out and get petitions to qualify candidates. If you don't, you should. Because it helps get people on the ballot. And one of the things we're all failing on, including the Conservative Party, we're not running enough candidates locally throughout the city.
Full slate.
We're not
ran a full slate.
We're not running enough candidates. Excuse me. We're not running enough candidates throughout the city of New York for all the spots. Because you have to offer an alternative. You have to give people the chance to cast a vote, whether it be a protest vote or not. Moving to this year, I think we're all kind of pleased that we had a kind of great year nationwide. We had a great year nationwide. We certainly we have to deal with government now. And that we have to do so we don't lose, so we lay the groundwork for a victory in 2016. We certainly need, we got the House, we got the Senate, we need the executive branch so that we can move this country back from what Obama has brought us to. We also had a pretty good year in New York State, and you should know that. And you're part of New York State, and New York State plays an important part in the nation. We elected 3 brand new congressional candidates this year. We added 3 new congressmen to the state of New York, and that goes a long way in preserving the majority. We elected 7 new state senators, 7. Elected 4 new assembly members, There's 2 still out. The final count isn't in yet. Back to the state senate, not only did we elect 7 new state senators, but we added 4 new ones to give us the majority. The Republican conservatives control the Senate. And this Friday, I had a long conversation with Dean Skelos, and I had a clear point of view that I certainly was not in favor then joining with the Independent Democratic Council, okay, 2 years ago. And my hope was that this year they wouldn't form with the Independent Democrats. And Friday, I don't know if I'm telling tales out of school, but Friday he said to me, we're going it alone. We're going to govern as Republicans. Okay? And I think that's the right way to go. Take a look at the state and city we're in. It's going to be quite a job, and it's going to take a lot of courage for the Senate to govern as conservative Republicans. They're the only ones, though, that can stop the progressive agenda that de Blasio is going to try to be pushing through the state with Andrew Cuomo. So you got to encourage him. You got to, when you see bills coming up in the Senate, you got to get on the phone to your senator, and you got to get on the phone to even Republican senators that are not in your district. Call anytime to Dean Skelos. Tell them to hold the line on various issues when you see it coming. If you don't speak out, you really don't count. If you don't vote, you don't count. And if you're not in the process, you don't count. That doesn't go for the people sitting in this room. You're in the process. You're here on a Sunday afternoon. You could be doing a lot of things, getting ready to watch a football game, that's for sure. So it's important. Sometimes you say your vote doesn't count. Sometimes you say your activity doesn't count. Believe me, individuals really clearly can make a difference. Just by the fact that we have this young man, Joseph, sitting here, you give him the inspiration and the courage to, and he may become a great leader in our society down the road. So it's important that he sees other people involved. It's important that he sees that legislators try to do the right thing. And they don't always do the right thing, as you know. So I think I covered enough ground. I gladly will open the floor to, I'm not here, I didn't come here to put you to sleep, and I hope I didn't do that. I certainly, before I take questions and answers, I want, once again, thank you for your personal involvement. I want to thank you and wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And I'm open for questions, and I'd be glad to try to answer any question you throw at me.
Okay. Yeah, if anyone has any questions. Lawrence?
Yes, sir.
Hi. Thank you for coming, Mr. Long. What is your opinion about what President Obama may or may not have done, but I think he did, to our constitutional process was an announcement on Thursday night?
I think it's an absolute disgrace what he did, and I think he is in violation of the Constitution of the United States. Look, what's got to happen? And that's an easy answer. It's an easy answer, but what has to be done now, from my perspective, is look. I think the Republicans in the House and the Senate, come January, they have to move fast and start putting bills on his desk, and they have to piecemeal start dealing with immigration, okay? And they have to come to an agreement. Not everyone's going to like what's done, but they have to do something. They can't leave the door open because that's what he wants them to do. And they can't get angry and go through, while it's an impeachable offense as far as I'm concerned. Okay. They can't go I'm not backtracking, but they can't go they should not go that route. They should govern. And he wants them to make the mistake of deal in anger. And they can't do that.
Mike, have we heard the last of the Moreland Commission?
I hope not. I certainly hope not. You know, let me tell you, everyone was affected in it. You know, when Cuomo did that, like I said, I've been